second. Let me get this going. Welcome to the Trachtenberg School's Multisector Career Perspectives in Environmental Fields. This is a panel that we've been running since last year to give people an understanding about all the different ways that you can have impact in the environmental fields, within different sectors, within different industries. So I am thrilled to have this impressive panel of alumni who are going to share more about their experiences and their perspectives on this field. So I'm going to ask each of them to start with the introduction. And on my screen, Susanna, you are first up on my screen. So I'm going to start with you and we'll just go around the room.
Hi, everyone. I just do a quick introduction.
A little bit about yourself, your career path, and what you're doing now would be wonderful.
Oh, okay. That sounds nice. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Susana. I'm from Peru. I'm living in Lima, actually, right now. I studied at GW back in, I graduated in 2018. I study environmental resource policy. So before I start, I want to share a little bit what I did before I start my program, because I consider that it's kind of important. It's kind of like the backbone of my career path, just to mention. So for example, years prior to start my master degree at GW, I have worked for the National Center of Strategic Planning here in Peru, where I provide technical assistance to ministers and local governments, contributing to the development of strategic planning. There, I have the opportunity to work for strategic planning to the Department of Environment here in Peru, and also provide technical assistance to senior leaderships by summarizing climate change mitigation scenarios for COP20 back in 2014. Then when I graduated from GW back in 2018, I had the opportunity to work there in the United States for a private company as an environmental and social governance analyst, where I research, analyze environmental and social issue proposals for shareholder meetings of publicly traded companies. So there I gain knowledge of corporate sustainability. After that job experience, I got back to my country here in Peru, and I had opportunity to work for the Department of Education in Lima, where I work as I assisted in the formulation, analysis, and assessment of substantial budget for educational interventions and activities. I conduct research and monitor budget execution, and also I gain budgeting skills. Mainly, I work for educational interventions such as literacy education and different education models for rural areas. After that job experience, I got back to my roots again, and I started working for the National Center of Strategic Planning. Back to my strategic planning abilities again, but this time I was working for the Foresight and Strategic Studies unit, where I did research and also synthesize environmental information for the development of Peru's national plan of strategic development with a vision of 2050. So in that job, allowed me to have a broad perspective of environmental issues for Lima, and also at a national level on different regions of Peru. I was able to see environmental issues such as environmental regulation, biological diversity, climate change, and environmental governance. Then after that job experience, I was kind of hesitating between continue working for the public sector here in Lima, here in Peru, actually, because I want to expand my knowledge on more international topics So it's then where I saw an opportunity to work. I saw an opportunity to apply for the International Affairs Department here in Peru. So this is a funny story because even though that I didn't get the job that I applied for, I was invited actually to apply for a position as a consultant at WWF to work with the International Affairs Department. So that's what I'm working right now. I'm working as a consultant at WWF, where I provide support for the negotiation process of the International Plastic Treaty, where Peru is the chair of the committee. So in this current job, I conduct rapid research and analysis, reviewing and interpreting issues of relevance, particularly on themes of life cycle of plastic, identify chemicals and polymers, and learning about other environmental agreements. Yeah, that's all. That's practically my career path so far.
Fantastic. This is great. I love hearing everybody's paths too. So this is wonderful. Jay, you are up next on my screen.
Thanks, Denise. Jay Scher, MPA 2013. My career path is much more of a straight line. I started working, first the disclaimer as a government employee. I'm speaking for myself and on behalf of my agency or any individual commissioners or the commission as a whole. So I started working at where I work now, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission here in DC in 2012 while I was at Trachtenberg. I have been here the entire 11 and a half years since then. I worked in one group and am now manager of that group after my manager retired. So been working nominally in the same area, but that has afforded me quite a bit of diversity of topics and issues over the years. So just a quick explainer on what FERC is and sort of what FERC does. You may be paying Pepco or Dominion or BG&E or something for your electric provider. The state that you live in sets the rate that electric provider tells you to pay. But those electric providers buy their power in a wholesale market that's transmitted over big, tall transmission towers and things. So I work on regulating the transmission rates and rules and the wholesale markets, mostly in the central United States, so from the Mississippi to the Rockies. FERC covers the whole US, but we're split into divisions. So I started here while at Trachtenberg. I was on the regulatory policy track, had been interested in energy for a long time. In high school, had gone to see Inconvenient Truth, the live discussion. Was very interested in energy. Didn't know anything about FERC or this particular small agency. We were known as a sleepy agency before. Now we're much larger or have a larger profile. And sort of the day-to-day of what we do, we have similar to other independent regulatory agencies like the SEC, Federal Trade Commission, things like that. We have commissioners that are appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and then a large advisory staff of analysts like myself that take in filings from the parties that we regulate. Sometimes we take actions on our own to regulate different parts of the electric system. It's a little bit more of an environmental adjacent career. We do generally have to sort of be agnostic to the type of generation, whether, coal or gas versus wind, solar, geothermal, batteries, things like that. We also are generally looking at the standard that we look at is just and reasonable and not unduly discriminatory or preferential. It's pretty wide reaching. It's not, something like the Clean Air Act or NEPA that's really focused specifically on the environment, but rather it's we're more of an economic regulator. However, while a lot of that can seem a little bit more distant from some of the day-to-day of, whether it be fighting climate change or the energy transition or anything of that matter, our actions really have a lot of direct effects. So we oversee the ability of interconnecting new generation to the transmission system. So when you hear about, oh, you're gonna have more solar or wind or nuclear or batteries attached to the grid, I'm working day to day on the rules and procedures that allow that to happen, and ensuring that it's safe and reliable, and hopefully least cost or efficient in some way. So that short and sweet a little bit because the path is a little more direct, but really enjoyed working here. It's at the heart of a lot of the major issues facing the energy and environment sector right now.
Fantastic. So we'll go from federal to local, and Stefan, you're next on my screen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm Stefan Roja, team lead for the donation reuse program with DC's Department of Energy and Environment. And I graduated Trachtenberg in 2015 with my MPP with a concentration in urban policy. And I began working with DC government during grad school. I first interning with them starting in 2014. I started interning through a program called the District Leadership Program, which is available to current undergrad and grad students. It's a paid internship program run by DCHR, and then you're kind of assigned different agencies who have volunteered to host them. The first year, or the first summer I did the internship program, I was with the Public Service Commission, and I worked on electric rate policy. And then I was able to do it a second time and went over to the Department of Energy and Environment. There I had a focus on sustainable DC outreach, which is our district's sustainability plan. While I was interning there, a new product stewardship program opened up, and I kind of positioned myself as, while I was interning, to start working on some of that stuff before they were able to hire someone. And then when the position opened up, was able to apply and get that job. I worked there leading the product stewardship programs with paint and electronics for 2 years. And then I moved over to DC's Department of Public Works with the Office of Waste Diversion. There I worked on recycling and composting programs and policies, launching the home composting rebate program, and working to update our solid waste regulations. After about 4 years in that role, I moved back to DOEE in 2021 to be the team lead for the new donation reuse program. So far in this role, we've kind of focused on sort of those more preferable aspects of waste diversion. It's always better to donate something before recycling it or composting it. And we've worked to create a Reuse DC website where residents can go and find where they can donate household items. We run a small grants program where small entities can apply for up to $10,000 in funding on projects related to donation and reuse. Have conducted an outreach campaigns on our new website and also on food waste prevention, and do a lot of coordination with sister agencies and nonprofits to try to help advance many different aspects of donation and reuse in DC.
And Stefan was my GA years ago, so I love seeing what you're doing now. He is my statistical guy, helped me a lot. Lesmarie, you are next.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Lesmarie Nicholson. I graduated GW in 2003. I'm currently a program manager at the Funders Network, which is a membership organization, a philanthropic membership organization with over 130 grant-making institutions as part of our membership. I decided to pursue a career in the environmental field because I was living in Jamaica at the time. I am Jamaican, and I was really concerned about our environment and our coastline and just the effects of climate change on our island. So after GW, I did return to Jamaica, where I was working at the university for about a year, and I was contracted there to plan a climate change conference for the entire Caribbean. And it was a pretty successful conference, which I'm very proud about. I moved back to Miami or I moved back to the United States rather, about a year after, I think in 2007, and did a number of internships, and then started working with an environmental nonprofit organization in Miami. I was the program manager there, where I was in charge of 150 of Miami-Dade County Public Schools as part of our environmental program. So I was basically working with schools to help them save energy. And so the would save on their energy at their schools, and the county would give them back a portion of that money. We were also, I was also helping to coordinate a home energy savings program, which we did in the community, and it was in collaboration with Miami-Dade County Sustainability Department. And that was also, you know, a very successful program. Was with that organization for about 4 years, and then applied to the Funders Network, where I am currently, and have been there for about 10 years. I currently, you know, work with philanthropic organizations. We help them to, you know, collaborate with other organizations who are also working on similar issues as they are, and they are all working on a number of issues around climate, the environment, but not just environmental issues, but the other pillars of sustainability, including the economy and equity as well. So I'll stop there.
And last but not least, we're going to go to Howard. And just to remind attendees, feel free to start typing in questions at any point, or raise your hand for when you're ready. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name's Howard Morano. I got my master's in public policy from GW, class of 2016. While I was at GW, I was doing that part-time and working in the environmental nonprofit space, primarily on advocacy work. So working at the Union of Concerned Scientists for actually 3 of the years while I was at GW, and with a background in political science from my bachelor's degree. But I really wanted to get kind of more into the weeds on environmental policy and implementation, and move away from some of that communications type work and advocacy work. So just kind of as opportunities popped up in the consulting field, was kind of always had my eyes out for different consulting options, and found ICF to be just a really good fit for me. Personally, coming from the environmental advocacy community, I was looking for a consulting firm that had a good reputation for supporting clients that I was comfortable supporting, and then also just projects that were really interesting. I first ran into ICF through their support for the US EPA's, basically the US National Greenhouse Gas Inventory, which I've used to reference many times during paper writing in graduate school. And it was just a great opportunity about a year after I had finished at GW in 2017, when there was an opening up in the fall, and I was able to apply and was lucky enough to get a job here. And then I've been at ICF since 2017, so for about 6 years now. And maybe I'll just speak about our team, which is the Climate, Energy, and Transport Division. First, we generally support about 70% federal clients, although that's diluted over the years from a situation where it's been a little bit higher. And then we also support kind of a mix of state and local governments, commercial clients, as well as international clients, like both US-based that do international work, like for example, USAID or World Bank, and then also international clients as well that are based in other countries. Myself particularly, I'm more focused on a lot of the international work. I support a lot of capacity building activities around particularly greenhouse gas emissions inventories. So we have a large project with EPA where we're helping other countries develop their greenhouse gas inventories. A lot of my work also includes supporting independent evaluations of multilateral development banks and climate funds. So World Bank is a common one, and some of their funds, as well as the Green Climate Fund, just to name a few. But then, to be honest, throughout the years, I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I've done some state support for the state of Pennsylvania's Climate Action Plan, have supported greenhouse gas inventories for a number of commercial clients across a few different sectors, and then also help with a few federal rulemakings, the biggest one being the corporate average fuel economy standard, so helping with the environmental impact statement work for that. And then I would just say, kind of, since we have a spectrum of folks that are more quantitatively focused and qualitatively focused, I'd put myself slightly more on the qualitative side. So I do a lot of report writing, reviewing data that others generate, turning it into kind of something that the clients and also their desired audiences can digest. And I just would also say I was working in DC in ICF's originally Farragut Square location and now Crystal City, and then am now full remote, working from Pittsburgh, PA, but I'm in the DC area pretty frequently for work as well. And then I think, yeah, I'll just pause there. I think that's a good summary, but we have so many different clients and projects. I can speak to more specific things as well, but I'll stop there.
Great. Well, this is why we do this. Very, very different backgrounds and experiences from each of you. So I'm going to pause before I ask a question because I would rather open this up for students. If anyone has a question, please either raise your hand like this or tap the reaction button or type it into the screen. And give a second of a pause here. Great. Addie.
All right. Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for being here. My question, so I'm a first year ENRP student, and I am considering taking the GIS, which is the Geospatial Information System certificate here at GW. And I was wondering if within your work, would that certificate be helpful?
Anyone want to try that one?
I can maybe, if folks are okay, I can jump in first maybe. On my sense is, so our team is kind of the climate team, but we focus on adaptation and mitigation projects. I find that we use GIS quite a bit on the adaptation side, so it is kind of a valuable skill. I know it's something we look out for in new hires who are working on a lot of the adaptation work. I'm not myself an expert, but it's nice to have people who I can refer to. So I was on the fence about adding that certificate, but yeah, so that's my for ICF, that is. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Jay, we can't hear you. There you go. Try it again. Nope. We lost you. Let's try it again. Stefan, do you want
Yeah,
to
well,
jump
I'll jump in. Yeah, I took one GIS class, and I found it useful for the capstone that I worked on. I worked with the deputy mayor for planning and economic development for my capstone project. And I don't really use it necessarily a lot day to day, but there's a lot of, in our department, a lot of people who are GIS specialists or like use maps a lot for plan review or for different programmatic stuff, or sometimes with our climate mitigation work and doing floodplains work and that kind of stuff is, mapping is always very useful.
Yeah, if I could just add, so I'm currently not using GIS in my role, but I remember in one of my internships with an engineering firm, we did have folks on staff and interns who did a lot of GIS work. So just wanted to share that.
Denise, can you hear me now? Okay, just had to rejoin. So what I was trying to say was, while we don't necessarily day-to-day use GIS in my job, I know a number of people in the energy sector. It's becoming a very important role and information piece across pretty much everything, whether it be developing where to put generation, transmission, environmental protection of various kinds, flood mapping, hazard mapping like floods, wildfires, things like that. I personally wish that I knew how to do it. I'm not a coder and am always sad that I'm illiterate in that. So I think it's something really valuable potentially.
Great. Looks like we had a question that came in on the chat. What was the most important thing you took away from your time at GW? And I'm going to add something that we often get a question about is some of the courses that you took that you feel like really helped add value. So both your time in terms of maybe some learning or some skills, but also courses that you took, experiences. Who wants to start on that one?
I can start if you want. Well, I remember one of the first courses that I took when I arrived there was I think it was political science, and was one of the most challenging because I think one of the part of the grading was participate. So since it was my first semester, my first time in the United States, so practically I had to participate. I have to be more proactive to participate in class and talk with friends. So it was kind of one-on-one to start doing kind of networking, which was one of the important pieces that I kind of learned during my time when I was living there in DC.
So I'll say cost benefit analysis, probably of classes that were under Trachtenberg. Professor Cellini taught it when I was taking it. I don't know what classes she's teaching these days, but there were in some ways it helped me get the job here. I ended up taking my cost benefit analysis that I did for that class about the wind production tax credit. I turned it into a journal article for Policy Perspectives, and it happened to be that the day before I interviewed here, I had read a paper from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory about transmission, and I was able to speak about something for like 2 minutes intelligently. So you'd be surprised where sort of if you can tailor your projects to your interests and sort of your career, it helps to you just get immersed in the field a little bit more easily. It also, cost benefit analysis specifically, I think, speaks to something that as I train people here, working from imperfect information, and a lot of our roles in environment and energy, there's a lot of data out there, but you're not going to have, there's not a right answer. You're really working through what's in front of you and trying to make a well-balanced decision as much as you can that's not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah, I would second. I mean, cost benefit I think was super helpful. I find that the program evaluation course was very helpful, and it's possibly because I help with a lot of evaluations for the climate funds, but just setting up kind of your methods and approaches is super helpful, both for the projects itself, but also articulating how you're going to proceed when you're writing a proposal in response to an RFP. I also found the capstone project to be pretty helpful because it is kind of a consulting oriented activity, kind of working for a client. That there's just that skill set, engaging with both the capstone, our client, which was the National League of Cities, and then also we were evaluating other city climate action plans for equity provisions, and having to interact with another dozen or so city officials has been super helpful for some of the state and local work as well. Just being comfortable engaging with folks. So I would definitely highly rate that one as well.
I think I'm going to echo everything people have said so far. I think likewise for cost benefit analysis, I wrote on DC's phone ban and was able actually to talk about that when I applied for a position, my first position at DOEE. Because in fact, when I moved into that role, I had no waste experience really, other than kind of like trying to help out with it during my internship. So things I could draw on in my grad school were helpful. I think right now, day to day, my program evaluation course is probably something that I probably use a lot of those skills from, especially in kind of program implementation that you kind of are forced to do at a local government level. And then my capstone, I mentioned I did that for the deputy mayor for planning and economic development. And that kind of helped me further network in DC government and kind of make more connections. And so I could like draw on those experiences too when I'm trying to apply for jobs in DC government.
Another question. Oh, does anyone else have any to add before another question that came in the chat? So we have one question that came in that I'm not sure anybody can answer is, what tips do you have for international students who want to find employment now they're in the States or back home after graduation? Anyone want to chime in? Susanna?
Yes, I think
Susanna, Lesmarie, great.
When I was there, I was trying to participate I'm sorry, I was trying to volunteer on everything I could. That also gives you, I think gives you bonus for your, if you are under an employment, sorry for the dog, under an employment, on your PTO, I think. But yeah, with volunteer programs that you can participate, it will allow you to meet people there. I mean, but I will advise like doing so because you care about the cause that you are supporting. It's not just because you are gonna get to certain outcomes, for example, but if you really care about the cause you're supporting, you really would be able to meet people that share the same value. Yeah, that's my advice.
So I'm gonna just echo and just say, ditto to what Susanna said. I mean, do as much volunteering as you can and internships. I mean, I found that, coming to GW, I realized how much broader the field was. So it helped me to I just started to explore more of, the field to see, what the other options were outside of what I had known. I was kind of honed in on climate change and climate change issues, but realizing there are environmental justice issues and advocacy and all these other avenues to be explored. So just taking on as many internships as you can, volunteering. I find also that, that's networking is always one of the best ways to just connect with others, stay connected with folks in your year and in your class as well, would be my advice.
Looks like someone was also asking about if there's any recommendations, organizations you would recommend, and that might be something that someone could just put in the chat for some specific questions on that. Other questions from attendees? Otherwise, I could ask questions, but again, I would rather them be coming from all of you. Christine?
Hi. Yeah, I'm running on my way out, but if I could ask a question and then check the recording, I'd appreciate it. So we're kind of getting towards this, but I'm thinking about, I'm a first year. I think some other folks here are first years. We're trying to make the most of our 2 years in the program if you're full time, or 2 to 3 years. And I'm thinking about internships versus looking for a part-time or full-time position, and if any of you were in that position, and maybe how you navigated that, because there's pros and cons to both, and finding an internship semester after semester is also something I'm thinking about versus a full-time position. So if you have any thoughts on that, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
So I'll give a little plug for what is now the Pathways program. It was Student Career Employment Program back when I did it. But as federal government agencies, a number of them, including ours, there will be postings where you're technically an intern for a period of time, and you have to work, I think it's 640 hours and meet a few other things and graduate, for instance. and then you can be non-competitively hired into the agency that you're already working at. So if you have a place in mind that you really want to work, those are great opportunities. It's also a great path that I think a lot of agencies are trying to use now to get to start refilling sort of as people have retired and otherwise. But yeah, I think it's definitely a debate about finding all those internships is hard, but you also want to get some variety. I lament at times that I stayed in one place, but there's also benefits to it.
So I don't know if the AmeriCorps program still exists, but it does. Well, that's kind of how I got my kind of, I want to say, my initial start in Miami. I started off in the AmeriCorps program, working with the nonprofit that I was working with, and eventually once that program had ended, the organization decided to keep me on. So I think that's also, if it's still around and Denise is giving me the thumbs up, then I think, it's not the sexiest start, but it is definitely a way in to, the career that you may want.
I'm an AmeriCorps alum, and I've run many programs, and I've had people that were accomplished. I've had people in graduate degrees say, this is what I need to do to pivot, and you get financial aid to help pay. I mean, you get a money to help pay off student loans afterwards too. So
there you go. So I enjoyed my year, and I enjoyed working for the organization that I worked with, and I believe they try to pair you with organizations that are, within the career that you want to be in. So it's definitely an option to consider.
As we're plugging different programs, I want to plug, I didn't go through this, but something that DOE has now is the Green Fellows program, which is something I try to send to Denise whenever it opens up, but that's for current grad students in DC schools. And so I'll share a link. It's closed now, but it should probably be open up in a year, because it just closed. And that's like a great way to get your foot in the door in the agency, and it's a paid position. And also kind of, it's a cohort. So you kind of get to know your fellow Green Fellows programs. And a number of them have been hired on full-time at the agency. And then another program that kind of after grad school, it's a program I applied to and got in, but got hired on, so I didn't end up doing it. It's the Capital City Fellows program, which is after grad school. It's kind of similar to district leadership program, but after grad school, you can apply through, it's run by DCHR, and then you do, or at least how it was structured, I'm not sure if it's changed. No, it looks like it's about the same, is 3 6-month rotations at different agencies. And so it's a great way to kind of learn what a number of different agencies do. And I think you get some priority points actually if you go to apply for a full-time position and you've completed a Capital City Fellows program.
it looked like Nandine, did you have your hand raised at one point here?
Hello. Thanks everyone. Thanks for being here. My question is, sometimes it feels like I'm spending too much time applying for internships that I have no hope for. So what's the best strategy to spend my time wisely? I mean, I'm being kind of picky where to apply, but then I'm not applying to 100 jobs per week, but then still it seems like spending so much time on applying and then haven't really heard back from them. So what's the best strategy to reach out to organizations, or what's the best tip? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll say there's going to be a lot of failure. As much as we'd like, we're, as the federal government, I'm sort of removed, I get to see resumes, but they've already been screened. So I sort of, there's a secondary layer that maybe you should have been forwarded, but somebody screwed up or something like that. networking that Denise noted, just, looking on LinkedIn, seeing if there's a Trachtenberg connection. There are a lot of us everywhere. Denise can probably connect you with somebody who's maybe adjacent to that organization, just to even know, is the internship actually what it seems like? I also often found that the internship I really wanted and thought was great, I wouldn't get. And then the next thing I got was I got hired and was wonderful. So I wouldn't be too discouraged by not getting the perfect internship. I can imagine that all 5 of us ended up in places we didn't expect when we left for college. I never intended to live in DC this long. I've been here for 15 years now, 16 years. So yeah, I think it is hard, but networking is definitely something to get a little bit closer to. Maybe someone will forward your resume. I know that happened with me. I went to a career fair at GW, and somebody pushed my resume along to a pile in front of a hiring person.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, I mean, I think particularly just for multiple reasons, I was looking at working while going to grad school, and that first tranche of like applications, I feel like I probably did 50 or so at least, because I mean, I was a political science major in Washington, D.C., so differentiation is quite difficult. Speaking just from the consulting side, I think a couple things. One, I know I think some firms are faster than us, but I know ICF is doing a lot of their hiring for graduates in the fall of so if you would start in May 2024, we've kind of already made hiring decisions. So just like having a good sense of the cadence of the hiring. I know consulting's pretty fast, it seems, at least from my experience. And then the only other, I think doing some networking and like coffee informational interviews has been helpful. I think I've talked to several folks and it's helped them kind of clarify what the role looks like and maybe helps them tailor their application. I'd like to think it helps them tailor their resume and cover letters a little bit better. So I definitely think that can be helpful.
I saw you. Yeah, it'd be great.
I was gonna echo the networking again, and just simply because recently we hired a communications associate, and when the job announcement was going out, the first thing they did was to ask internally, like, let everybody know who that there's this position that's open. So I'm just saying that to say, let everybody know that you're looking for a position or a job within it, especially if they're in the field that you want to be in. Let them know, because you never know who knows who, and they'll recommend you and say, hey, I know that Eliza is looking for a position. So
Lesmarie, that made me think of one other thing that I was giving advice to somebody on, like, climate change and clean energy careers. You don't need to be like a scientist or an engineer. They still need HR folks. They need accountants. They need managers. All jobs will be climate jobs one day to some degree. So don't, you can apply that skill even if within an organization or a company or something, even if it's not exactly like the flashy job that is maybe posted or something.
That's a perfect way to wrap up this segment, because I love that, like, every job will be a climate job someday. Every job will be an environmental job someday. Stay tuned to everybody, because I'm actually in the process of starting to look at scheduling for the spring, and I'm already looking at some alum on ESG and CSR, because that is now everyone is doing this work. So before I open up the breakout rooms, I just want to thank our alumni. It is always such an honor to hear about your work, particularly in the environmental space, which is so critical for all of us and is on the forefront. So to know that all of our alumni are out there doing the work that you're doing, I just want to express my gratitude for the work that you do and for your ability to take some time out today to give back to the students. So thank you very much.